Hello everyone, welcome to my blog. Today I'm doing something a little different. I'm making a long-form video about how I make honey mead. This is a first part video on the fermentation process. I will update this video when we get to aging. This is my process, not the process. If you are one of those who knows the process, I'm sure there's a forum post on Reddit waiting for you. You may also say the process in my comments. I will not respond. If you like my shorts instead, then go back to my shorts. They are funny. Otherwise, go ahead and grab your beverage of choice, but not homemade honey mead because we haven't made it yet. And we are going to go ahead and get involved with this process. In order to make any kind of alcohol, which is what we are going to do. So this video is not for kids. It is for 21 and older. You have been warned. If you want to make any kind of alcohol, you need sugar, water, yeast, and a place to put it for a long period of time. I will go over each one of these that I use so that you will know my process. First is our sugar. Let's talk honey. No, we're talking about honey. We're not talking to honey. You need to have good quality honey. Do not buy that store-bought garbage. Only buy U.S. honey and from a place that you know, a reputable source. Preferably some place that you know is a real place and not a consolidation factory where they put tons of honey together in barrels and then sell it to you. I do not like that honey. Most of that honey has counterfeit honey within it. So do not buy that honey. Instead, make sure you're buying good quality honey or your mead will not be good quality. Remember, it can only be as good as its ingredients. For yeast, any kind of good wine yeast will do. Also, you will want to buy some sort of yeast nutrient. I personally prefer Fermade O and Go Firm. They are good quality yeast nutrients that also are not chemical based. If you use chemicals in your honey mead, you will taste it. You will know, and it will taste bad. So make sure you're using only good quality organic ingredients. For water, I prefer distilled water. Our tap water here is good. It is tasty, but it also contains minerals and chlorine. Distilled water generally does not have those things. However, no distilled water is perfect, so make sure you test your water that you want to use. If you use distilled water, you will not need to boil your water, not necessarily. You can still, but I recommend against it. If you use tap water, you should boil it because that water may have other organic things in it that you do not want in your fermentation. If you are just starting, this is your first time doing honey mead, I recommend getting a glass carboy for reasons. Make sure you also have an airlock for other reasons, which I will discuss. If you have done this a lot and you want to make a lot of mead, you can do what I do and get a food safe, food grade 5-gallon bucket. I have drilled a hole in the top and put a gasket so that I can put the airlock in said hole. You need airlocks because when you ferment, it gives off CO2. That is a gas, and it will build up pressure. And if you do not have an airlock, the pressure will build up and you will create a high pressure environment, which is bad. Everybody knows what happens in a sealed container with a high pressure environment. Bang. You do not want that to happen. Most likely what will happen is you'll just pop the lid, so don't worry about explosions. But still, you should have an airlock. Now that we've gone over the basics of what you need to start the fermentation, we need to cover the miscellaneous items that you need because it's never that simple. For sanitizer, I recommend Star San. It is good. I have been using it for a while, and you can see I have hardly used any of it in the bottle. It is actually high quality to me. Other people may disagree, but I like it. It is not sponsored. Nothing in this video is sponsored. There are no affiliates. I just think it's good stuff. You may have been wondering what this lime green trough is for. It is actually a wallpaper soaking bin. We are not using it for that because we are not doing wallpaper today. We are fermenting honey mead. So that is not what we will use it for. What we are using it for is a place to hold the sanitizer and water so that we can sanitize our equipment before using. It is very important that you sanitize everything that will come in contact with your mead. You do not want to have foreign invaders in your mead. It is bad. You may also want to have a large stirring spoon if you use a 5-gallon bucket. If you use a 1-gallon carboy, a spoon may not be necessary for you, hence miscellaneous. This is one thing everyone will tell you that you need. I'm here to tell you that after years of doing this, I have not used this in the last couple of years. That is the truth. These are a hydrometer set. This hydrometer and this tube are there to help you measure the gravity. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's fine. I don't know what it is either, but I do know how to enter these numbers into a computer on the internet and find out what my specific gravity is of my mead. How you would use this is you take a baster, such as this one, yet another thing you might require. You take a sample of your mead before you set it for the fermentation. That will give you the starting gravity. At the end, when you think it's done fermenting, you take another sample and you find out what your ending gravity is. That will give you your alcohol content. If you are already asleep, I'm sorry, there is more. You need to achieve the alcohol content that your yeast is rated for. The yeast I am using is rated for 15%. So your numbers need to say 15% alcohol. If it's not, then your mead did not finish. If, for whatever reason, your mead still doesn't finish, but you did it right, it's possible that you actually did it wrong. And that maybe you did not have enough sugar, or maybe your yeast died. That is unfortunate. Now, if you have seen everything here and still think you would like to make mead, then you will need something else, some work on your part. You need a recipe. I have a recipe, the way I like it. You will be different, so you should go make your own recipe. I made mine on a website called Batch Builder. It is a good website, not sponsored, of course. If you want to make your own batch, you will have selections that you can make on that site. There are other sites where you can build recipes as well. You may want to tweak it as I have over the years. My recipe is not specifically the same as what the default is. If you also like it sweet, make sure you understand that you do not want to back sweeten it because that may involve chemicals. So you will want to start your fermentation with the appropriate amount of honey to water, and then you will have the sweetened mead. If you like your mead more dry, then you will add less honey. That is just physics, people. Actually, it's chemistry. I was wrong. Before you can mix anything together, you need to sanitize everything that will come in contact with your mead and your must. I haven't said what must is. It is something you must do. That's a joke. That's actually not why it's called must. The must is the premix of yeast and honey, or whatever sugar you use, to get ready for the primary fermentation. You need to mix it in a small bowl, perhaps, and you will need a utensil to do said mixing. In my case, I need a large spoon for my fermentation vessel, and you will also want to sanitize even what you use for your gravity, because the baster is going to go directly into your mead. This one, you just get in the habit of going ahead and sanitizing everything, even though you will likely not put your sample back in your mead. You probably shouldn't do that, but I know people that do. Actually, that's a lie. I don't know anyone. When you're sanitizing, it is very important that you follow all directions on your sanitizer. I am following the directions on my sanitizer. You will not necessarily do what I am doing. This is your last warning. Now we are going to build our must. The must is the starter for your fermentation process. It involves yeast, honey, water, and nutrient, like so. First, we will add the dry yeast. My recipe calls for 2 packets. Next, I will add the Go Firm. This requires 2.2 teaspoons. I realize that is probably not 2.2 teaspoons. I don't care. The nutrient just keeps the yeast alive. Here is the Fermade O. I need 1 full teaspoon of this, and then I will be adding more as time goes on. That is the bulk of the dry ingredients. Now we will add the wet ingredients. First we will add some honey. How much do you add? I don't actually know. I just add what seems appropriate. You're trying to make something that is soupy. Now I will add the distilled water. I don't actually know how much to add. I just add some. There. That seems to be enough. Now we'll take a spoon and stir gently. We're not here to beat this. One important thing to note about honey is that honey is hydrophilic, meaning it likes water. It will dissolve. The nutrient, however, does not dissolve very well, but it will eventually. It's very important that you don't beat this into submission. You just stir until it is completely consolidated. As you make your must, be sure to get rid of all large clumps. You may also note that small bubbles will begin to form and break. That is good. That means your yeast is healthy. If you see the small bubbles, you know that your must is activated. There should also be a smell, like a bread yeast or bread dough smell, if you are familiar. If not, then just imagine what it smells like to smell bread yeast, and that is what it smells like. While your must is sitting there doing musty things, we are going to add our ingredients to our fermentation vessel. In my case, I'm using a 5-gallon bucket that is food safe. I cannot emphasize that enough. Do not just use any old bucket off the shelf. It must say food grade. If it does not say this, do not use it. That is common sense, people. I will add water, then I will add honey. It makes it easier to stir. I will not add all of the water. I will only add maybe a gallon or a little bit more. In my case, my recipe would usually call for just over 3 gallons of water to 1.75 or so gallons of honey. In this case, I really like this honey. I'm going to use it all. This will make my mead very sweet. Again, your recipe will differ from mine. Real honey often crystallizes if left alone for a long time. In my case, I have crystallized honey, so I will remove the top of this vessel and spoon it out, hence the large spoon, also for stirring. Now that all the honey has been added, we will stir. The stirring will take a long time. I have not added all of the water to the bucket because it makes it more difficult to stir. Behold. After stirring is complete, when all the chunks are gone, you must add the rest of your water per your recipe. Now we will add the must. The must has been sitting for quite some time because stirring took a while. That is why you make the must first. Now we will add stir to evenly distribute the must. I will now assemble the bucket lid as per the directions. It may require some strength. We will now take a sample to do our gravity reading for our initial gravity reading. Place in like so. It will float. Then you will note where the lines intersect with the top of the fluid. That will be your initial gravity reading. Next, we will screw on the lid. In your case, it might be a rubber stopper for your glass carboy. Make sure that you have a very good seal and that no gas can leak out. You don't have to crank it down with a lot of torque. Just make sure it seals. Next, we will add the airlock. Now we will fill the airlock with water. When filling your airlock, do not overfill it because you will put the lid on. Gas will build up inside your fermentation vessel, and as it does, the gas will spill over into the airlock. This will prevent air from going back inside and will allow the CO2 to escape. You do not want oxygen getting into this fermentation vessel. That would be bad for your yeast. This is why this is important. Now you must allow this vessel to ferment. That means putting it somewhere that is climate controlled. That doesn't mean your garage that has about the right temperature. No, it means putting it in a closet somewhere and leaving it alone and not touching it. In my case, I still have to add nutrient to it, but other than that, I will stick it in a closet and leave it alone. This bucket is not firm, meaning it's not glass. That means that I will have to remove this airlock when I move this bucket to its final place where it will ferment. Keep that in mind when using a soft-bodied fermentation vessel. You cannot move it around with the airlock on. That's common sense. Be aware, anytime you're going into your fermentation vessel, you must sanitize anything that will come in contact with your good stuff. If you need to add nutrient, you must sanitize the spoon that you use. And if you're going to stir it, you must re-sanitize your stirring spoon as well. Depending on several factors, your recipe, your yeast, how much honey you're using, how much you're making, this fermentation could take several months, several weeks. It could take quite a long time. You must be aware that you must keep this in a very safe, dark, and climate-controlled area in order to properly ferment. If you're using a glass carboy for your fermentation, you must keep it away from sunlight. It's just like a vampire. Keep it dark, keep it fed. Over time, your fermentation vessel will bubble, hence the airlock. If you notice that the bubbles have stopped, that does not necessarily mean that your fermentation is complete. You should look at it, do a gravity reading, and make sure that it has been completed. If after a day or two, your fermentation is not started, meaning you're not seeing bubbles inside or you're not seeing bubbles from the airlock, then you may need more nutrient. You may need to do something different. That is beyond the scope of what I am doing. I have never had that happen to me, not once. So I cannot help you because I have never troubleshot it myself. I hope this video helps you in your endeavors to make honey mead. Mead is good. Mead is delicious. If you follow my steps, you will get the same mead as I have. If you follow your own steps, you will get your own mead. And that is preferable because your taste and my taste are different. Thank you for watching. And now